Every time you chase someone who treats you like an option, you teach them exactly what you're worth. Not with words, with behavior. And the lesson lands whether you intend it or not. Most people, when they feel ignored or dismissed, do the same thing. They explain themselves. They reach out again. They try harder. They perform. And with every repetition of that sequence, they hand away the one thing that should never leave their possession: their authority over themselves. The Stoics understood something about this that most modern conversations completely miss. The problem is never the person who disrespects you. The problem is your response to them, because your response is the only variable you actually control, and if that response is desperation, you've already lost the only game that matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't writing about comfort. He was writing about the radical, uncomfortable truth that nothing outside you determines the quality of your inner life unless you allow it to. Today we're going through 7 principles, not attitudes to perform for others. Internal disciplines that change how you move through the world, starting with the one most people never attempt. Principle 1. Withdraw your energy without announcement. Attention is not just courtesy, it is currency, and most people spend it on people who have demonstrated clearly they don't value the investment. Here is the mechanical reality. When you continuously give your presence, your time, and your emotional engagement to someone who ignores you, you are not being generous. You are funding the behavior that is damaging you. Every reach, every explanation, every attempt to be seen by someone who has chosen not to see you confirms to them that you will remain regardless of how they treat you. The Stoic correction is not dramatic. It is not a confrontation or an ultimatum. It is simply the quiet withdrawal of what you were giving freely. And that withdrawal changes the dynamic more reliably than any argument ever could. When your presence becomes conditional on respect, it carries weight it never had before. Absence teaches what presence could not. Principle 2. Use silence as a deliberate instrument. There is a specific misunderstanding about silence that costs people enormously. Most people believe that staying silent when disrespected means accepting the disrespect. It does not. Epictetus taught that we must make the best use of what is in our power and take the rest as it happens. Responding to every act of disrespect with words is not power. It is reactivity, and reactivity is the surrender of the only ground you actually own. Silence, deployed deliberately, breaks the cycle that disrespect depends on. Disrespect is designed to provoke a reaction. The reaction feeds the pattern. Remove the reaction, and you remove the fuel. This is not passivity. It is the most active choice available to you. The choice to disengage from a game you did not design and cannot win by playing. Before we continue, this is where most people quit. If you're still here, you're different. Subscribe to this channel, not for motivation, but for mental tools you can actually use. In a world of noise, we offer direction. In a world of distraction, we build discipline. Hit that subscribe button now. Let's continue. Principle 3. Treat your inner state as territory worth defending. Most people leave the gates of their mind open to anyone who approaches with noise. Criticism enters, dismissal enters, other people's assessments of your worth enter, and once inside, that material doesn't leave easily. The Stoics called the capacity to govern what enters the mind one of the highest forms of practical wisdom. Marcus Aurelius described the mind as a fortress, not a metaphor for hardness, a metaphor for deliberate selection of what deserves to influence you. When someone treats you without respect, that is information about them. It is data about their character, their limitations, their current state. It is not an assessment of your value that deserves to penetrate your interior. The man who allows every external judgment to reshape his sense of himself has no self. He has a mirror that reflects whoever happens to be standing in front of it. Protect what is inside the walls, not out of arrogance, out of the understanding that what enters your mind shapes your actions, and your actions are the only thing that actually matters. Principle 4. Build in silence instead of proving in public. There is a specific trap that disrespect sets. It makes you want to demonstrate your value to the person who dismissed it, to show them what they missed, to perform your worth in front of the audience that denied it. This is the trap. Because the moment you start building for their attention, you've made them the standard by which your progress is measured. And that is their power over you, freely given. Seneca wrote that we should retreat into ourselves as much as possible, keeping company with those who will make us better. The Stoic answer to dismissal is not demonstration, it is development. Quiet, consistent, unannounced development that accumulates over months and years into something that requires no explanation. The forge does not announce the blade it is producing, it simply applies heat and time until the metal becomes what it was always capable of being. Your work is the same. Build in the dark, let the result speak when it arrives. Principle 5. Set limits through action, not declaration. Most people establish boundaries by announcing them, and announcements without consequences are simply words that erode over time. Respect is not negotiated through conversation, it is established through demonstrated consequence. Every time you tolerate what you said you would not tolerate, you teach the other person that your stated limits are flexible under pressure, and they will test that flexibility again. The Stoic position on this is not complicated. What you permit, you reinforce. What you refuse to permit, consistently and without drama, you gradually eliminate from your environment. The action does not need to be aggressive. It does not need to be announced. It simply needs to be consistent, because consistency is what separates a genuine limit from a performance of one. Principle 6. Stop justifying your existence to people who've decided not to see it. This one is harder than it sounds. When someone dismisses you, the instinct is to explain, to provide evidence of your worth, to build a case for why you deserve to be treated differently. And every time you do that, you accept the premise that your value requires their verification. It does not. Epictetus was a slave who became one of the most studied philosophers in Western history. He understood, from the most direct possible experience, that external circumstances and other people's assessments of you have no necessary relationship to what you actually are. His freedom existed entirely within the domain of his own judgment. No one's permission was required. Stop constructing arguments for your own worth. The man who knows what he is does not need to convince anyone. He simply continues to be what he is, and lets that consistency speak over time. Principle 7. Leave without needing the last word. This is the discipline that most men never fully develop, because leaving cleanly requires something that ego resists at every stage. The willingness to be misunderstood, the willingness to walk away without correction, without vindication, without the satisfaction of the other person finally seeing what they lost. Walking away with dignity is not retreat. It is the recognition that some environments cannot be improved by your continued presence within them, and that your energy, applied elsewhere, will produce something real. The Stoics practiced what they called the view from above, the capacity to see any given situation from sufficient distance to recognize its actual scale. From that distance, most of the moments that feel like they require a response simply do not. They are small. They pass. And the man who waited for vindication in those moments will eventually realize he spent irreplaceable time waiting for something that never arrived. Leave when leaving is the correct decision, without anger, without performance, with the quiet certainty that you have somewhere more important to be. 7 principles, none of them comfortable, all of them available to you right now in the next interaction that tests them. Withdraw your energy from what doesn't value it. Use silence as a strategic instrument. Defend your interior state as if it is the only territory you truly own, because it is. Build without announcement. Establish limits through consistent action. Stop justifying yourself to people who have already decided. And leave, when leaving is right, without needing to be seen doing it. The forge produces nothing by waiting to be appreciated. It produces everything by applying consistent heat to resistant material over time. You are both the forge and the metal. Act accordingly. Tell me in the comments, which of these 7 is the one you've been avoiding? Be honest. That answer is exactly where the work needs to begin.